When the young mechanic accepted the challenge and placed her hands on the truck, something strange happened that wiped the smile off the owner's face. No one standing there had any idea what chain of events was about to unfold. What looked like an ordinary breakdown on the side of the road was about to change several lives forever. Emma Roberts was walking along Route 66, with a backpack on her shoulders and worn-out sneakers that let every pebble stab her feet. She was 24, too thin, tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. She was coming back from Springfield, after chasing a job that never truly existed. The shop owner hadn't even pretended to be kind. He laughed and told her she needed certificates, papers, proof. Without them, she was nothing. Emma swallowed her anger and shoved it into her pocket beside the last $15 she had from her one-way bus ticket. The walk back home was 25 miles, and it wasn't the first time she'd done it. The road was quiet, the sky heavy, when she noticed headlights parked on the shoulder near an abandoned gas station. A hood was open, and thin white smoke drifted upward like a silent prayer. A woman sat on the curb with her face buried in her hands. Emma could have kept walking. She was hungry, exhausted, and desperate to get home before her mother woke up and saw she'd failed again. But something about the scene pulled her in. Maybe it was the way the woman cried quietly, trying not to be heard. It was the same way Emma's mother cried at night when she thought no one was listening. Emma slowed her steps and spoke gently so she wouldn't scare her. The woman looked up with swollen eyes and graying hair tied in a loose bun. Her clothes were simple and worn, her sandals barely holding together. She said the old van had finally let her down, and she didn't know what to do. Emma checked the van and gently asked where she was headed. The woman said she needed to reach Houston before dawn to catch a train to San Antonio. Her sister was in the hospital and critically ill, and if she missed that train she might never make it in time. Emma leaned over the engine, guided by the weak glow of her phone's nearly dead flashlight. She placed her hand on the metal, listened carefully, and felt the strange, unnatural stillness. She recognized the problem instantly. It was the same one her father's truck had just days before he died. For a moment, Emma was 15 again, standing in the yard while her father worked beneath an aging truck. He had taught her that engines spoke if you truly listened. Silence, he always said, meant something inside was screaming for help. The woman explained she was running on reserve fuel and had planned to fill up, unaware the station had been abandoned for years. Emma scanned the rusted pumps and empty lot, then noticed a massive truck parked behind the station, quiet and Emma explained that fuel pump had failed, and without it the engine couldn't run. The woman's shoulders sank as she realized she would miss her train. Emma stood there, knowing she didn't have the money for a proper repair. She could have walked away, she probably should have, but she couldn't stop thinking about her own mother sitting alone like that. So she reached into her bag, pulled out her father's old Swiss Army knife, and began to improvise. Using a piece of hose, some wire, and a discarded plastic bottle, Emma built a temporary bypass system. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't permanent, but it worked. When the engine sputtered to life, the woman broke down and tried to hug her. She offered Emma money, but Emma refused without hesitation. She told her to drive carefully and find a real garage once she reached Houston. The woman paused, then asked for one more favor. She pointed toward the large truck behind the station and explained the driver had been stranded there for 2 days. Several mechanics had already tried and failed to fix it. If Emma could even take a look, it would mean everything. Emma hesitated. The truck was enormous, worth more than she had ever dared to touch. She was exhausted and just wanted to go home. But the woman's eyes were full of hope, and Emma couldn't say no. She approached the massive truck, listening to its silence and remembering her father's voice telling her to listen before acting. Inside the cab, a man slept deeply, worn down by stress and exhaustion. When he woke and saw Emma, doubt crossed his face immediately. She explained the injector valve was blocked. The man laughed, saying trained professionals with scanners couldn't fix it, so how could she? Emma stayed calm and told him she could try, or he could stay stranded. Using tools from the truck and help from the woman, Emma got to work. She explained she had learned everything from her father, a trucker who taught her patience and respect for machines. When she mentioned his death, the air grew heavy. She told them how a rushed mechanic had failed to service the brakes properly, leading to the accident that killed her father. That was why she never rushed repairs. Machines, like people, needed patience and understanding. Using a syringe and clean diesel, Emma manually cleaned the injector valve. Everyone doubted her. When the engine finally roared to life, the trucker lifted her off the ground in disbelief, but the celebration didn't last. Headlights sliced through the dawn as a certified technician arrived, confident and dismissive. He mocked Emma, ignored her work, and insisted the truck needed an expensive replacement. He ran his diagnostics and declared catastrophic failure, quoting a price that drained the color from the trucker's face. Emma challenged him, explaining the diagnosis didn't match the real issue. The technician dismissed her as uneducated and accused her of tampering. Authority, uniforms, and expensive equipment swayed everyone. Emma felt the familiar sting of humiliation as doubt returned. When the truck stalled again, the technician smirked. Something felt wrong. The woman quietly observed, then asked the technician to show his hands. Fresh diesel stains told the truth. He had sabotaged the repair. When confronted, he fled. Emma fixed the valve again, and the truck ran perfectly. But then a new problem appeared. The oil temperature climbed dangerously fast. Emma discovered a leaking gasket that would destroy the engine if ignored. The repair was costly, and the trucker had no money left. Emma looked at the sky and realized she had only hours. She borrowed an old jack, crawled beneath the truck, and risked her life fixing the leak using glue, rubber cut from her shoe, and her father's knife. The knife bent and cracked, but the repair held. They siphoned oil from the woman's van to save the engine. When the truck finally ran safely, the trucker cried and gave Emma everything he had. As the truck drove away toward Houston, silence settled over the station. Emma sat on the curb again, exhausted, holding the broken knife and money that felt heavy with meaning. The woman asked Emma why she had helped when she had nothing. Emma said she stopped because no one had stopped for her father when he needed it most. Then the woman revealed the truth. She wasn't a poor vendor at all. She owned one of the largest transport companies in the region, and everything had been a test. Emma had passed. Mrs. Santos squeezed Emma's hand gently and told her the truth without drama. She explained she had spent months traveling across the country disguised as someone with nothing, testing the world. She wanted to see who would help without expecting payment, praise, or advantage. She said Emma was the first person in 12 states who helped freely. Not only had she fixed the van, she had stayed to help a stranger with a massive truck, even after being insulted, exhausted, and humiliated. That mattered more than skill. Then she revealed Jack wasn't her cousin at all. He was one of her drivers, part of the test. The broken truck, the failed mechanics, even the expensive false diagnosis had all been lessons. But the oil leak at the end hadn't been planned. That part was real. Life had tested Emma again, and again she chose sacrifice. She gave up her father's knife, risked her life under the truck, and asked for help without pride. Mrs. Santos said that kind of character couldn't be taught or bought. She told Emma she had been searching for someone worthy of inheriting everything she built. Not her children, not her relatives, but someone who still carried hunger, humility, and humanity together. And she had finally found her. Mrs. Santos handed Emma an envelope. Inside was the deed to a fully equipped warehouse garage in Tulsa, already paid for and legally transferred into Emma's name. Lifts, tools, scanners, compressors, everything ready to work. The second document was a bank account statement. $50,000 had already been deposited to help her start properly, hire help, and run things the right way. Emma collapsed to her knees, convinced she had to be dreaming. The third document was a partnership contract Mrs. Santos's company would make. Emma's garage its official service center for the region. Guaranteed work, guaranteed income, a future no one could take away. Emma cried openly, overwhelmed and shaking. Mrs. Santos held her and told her to let it out. She said Emma had already paid the price long before money ever arrived. She told Emma to stay exactly who she was, to never rush engines or people, to keep stopping for those stranded on the road, to remember that respect was more powerful than technology. Before leaving, Mrs. Santos mentioned the broken knife. She said it was worth more than any scanner in the world because it proved Emma would sacrifice what mattered most to help someone else. That was real wealth. The van sputtered as it drove away, leaving Emma alone at the station again. But this time, she wasn't defeated. She stood taller, holding the envelope, knowing her life had shifted forever. 6 months later, a bright sign lit up Main Street in Tulsa, Pete's Garage. Below it, smaller letters promised help for truckers in need. Inside, engines hummed, tools clinked, and work flowed with purpose. In the back sat a restored yellow Freightliner, shining like a monument. Emma worked beneath another truck when a familiar horn sounded. Jack stepped out, smiling, back on the road and back on his feet. Another man followed him out, head down and ashamed. It was Matthew Fayard, exposed and humbled. He asked for forgiveness and a chance to start over. Emma looked at him carefully. She remembered the pain, the sabotage, the arrogance. Then she remembered her promise to never change. She offered him a job, but not a title. He would start at the bottom, minimum wage, learning to listen to engines and people. Respect first, skill second. If he changed, he could rise. If not, the door stayed open. That evening, Emma sat alone in her father's truck, holding the broken knife, now hanging in the garage. She whispered that true wealth wasn't measured by money or machines, but by heart. She locked up, went home, hugged her mother, and slept in peace. The next morning she would wake up and do it again. Fix engines, restore faith, multiply kindness. Because in a world obsessed with profit, the most powerful act is helping without expecting anything in return.